For the 53rd problem on this first ACT practice test, a formula for the surface area A of the rectangular solid shown below is A equals 2 times L times W plus 2 times L times H plus 2 times W times H, where L represents length, W width, and H height. By doubling each of the dimensions, length, width, and height, the surface area will be multiplied by what factor? So let's start first by just rewriting this equation for the surface area. So if you're unfamiliar with where this formula comes from, it's not too complicated to rederive it. So anytime you're dealing with surface area, it's essentially just how much area do all of the surfaces add up to in some kind of three-dimensional object. So right now we have this six-sided figure, this rectangular solid, and with those 6 different faces, notice they're each rectangles, and we can find the area of each of them, and then finding the surface area is just adding up all the areas of all of those faces. So for instance, this front face here, notice you can find by just multiplying the height times the width. But that would also be true for this back face, since you would again just be multiplying by the height and the width to find its area. And since there are 2 faces where you're just multiplying the height times the width, that's where this term comes in. And notice the 2 side faces would just be the length multiplied by the height, so that's this face here and this face here. And there are 2 where you multiply the length times the height, so that would be this middle term in our formula. And then the top and the bottom is just the length times the width, and again there are 2 of those. So that's this term here. Now our question asks, by doubling each of the dimensions, length, width, and height, the surface area will be multiplied by what factor? So in essence, we're just going to be doubling the length, width, and the height anywhere we see them in this formula. So let's rewrite our equation now, but doubling the length, width, and the height. So all we did was just anywhere we saw an L, a W, or an H, we would just replace it with the 2L, 2W, or 2H. Now what we can do from here is to see if we can get back this original area formula from our new equation where we doubled the length, the width, and the height. So to do that, our area, let's just focus on what's new from each of these terms. And essentially what we added is just all these factors of 2. Or in each of these terms, so each one of these terms, we essentially have this extra factor of 4, since 2 times 2 is 4. So let me just pull that out from each of the terms. So we have 4, and then we have 2 times the length times the width. And here we can pull out that 4, so we have 2 times the length times the height. And again, factoring out of 4, we have 2 times the width times the height. And notice that each one of these 3 terms here has that factor of 4 out in front. So since all 3 of the terms contain it, we can just factor it out. So what we end up with is that the area is 4 times 2LW plus 2LH plus 2WH. And notice that this inner part here, this is just the original area formula. So in essence, by doubling each of the length, the width, and the height, your surface area gets multiplied by a factor of 4. So going up to our original question and the answer choices, you can see that choice letter B is the correct answer.